The cafeteria was nearly empty after the lunch rush, its stainless steel counters still gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The cooks had already cleared most of the trays, tossing untouched food into large garbage bins. The scent of warm bread and roasted chicken lingered faintly in the air, mingling with the sterile smell of cleaning supplies. For months, Rosa, a thin, exhausted-looking woman in her mid-30s, had been visiting the back door of the cafeteria once the employees had eaten. She never stole from anyone's plate, never snuck into refrigerators, never caused trouble. Instead, she quietly asked if she could take whatever was destined for the trash: uneaten rolls, half trays of pasta, mashed potatoes that no one had touched. Some cafeteria staff knew her by now. They'd look the other way, sometimes even slipping her a little extra, because they saw the desperation in her eyes. Rosa was a widow. Her husband, an Army veteran, had died 3 years earlier in a car accident while driving home from his night shift. His death left Rosa alone with 3 children under 10. She worked 2 part-time jobs, but even with government assistance, the money wasn't enough. The food from this cafeteria had been a lifeline, a quiet blessing that kept her children's stomachs full. But today, things were different. As Rosa walked out the cafeteria's side door carrying a small paper sack filled with leftover rolls and roasted chicken scraps, a gruff voice stopped her cold. "Hey, did you just steal food from the kitchen, ma'am?" She froze. Turning, she saw Mr. Johnson, the janitor. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s, with thinning gray hair and a permanent frown etched into his face. Rosa swallowed nervously. "They were going to be discarded," she explained softly. Johnson's eyes narrowed. "Give it to me," he barked, stepping forward and snatching the sack from her hands. "What are you doing?" Rosa cried, her voice breaking. "Please, that's for my children." "How dare you steal from the company?" Johnson said loudly, puffing out his chest as though he were a security guard. "The fine is $30 for trespassing." Rosa blinked in shock. $30? "But I come here every day for leftovers. No one has ever stopped me before." "Oh, really?" Johnson sneered. "Thank God I caught you today. That means you've been stealing for weeks. You owe $100 for all you've taken so far." Rosa's heart pounded. "Please, sir, I don't have that kind of money. This is the only way I can feed my 3 kids at home." "I don't care," Johnson said coldly. "Pay up, or I'll call my cousin. He's the manager here, and trust me, you won't like what happens next." With trembling hands, Rosa dug into her purse. She pulled out the few crumpled bills she had left, barely $25, and held them out. Johnson snatched the money without hesitation. "Now drop the food and get out," he ordered. Tears filled Rosa's eyes as she turned to leave. Behind her, she could hear the rustling of the paper sack. When she glanced back, she saw Johnson stuffing the very leftovers he'd taken from her into his mouth, greedily chewing like it was his rightful prize. But what neither of them realized was that someone else had been watching the entire scene unfold. At the far end of the cafeteria stood Ms. Taylor, the company's regional director. Known for her sharp business sense and even sharper sense of justice, she had stayed late after a client luncheon and happened to witness everything. "Miss Taylor," Rosa whispered in shock as she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Follow me," Taylor said firmly, her voice calm but commanding. Rosa hesitated but obeyed, trailing behind the woman in the tailored navy blue suit. Together, they walked back into the cafeteria where Johnson was still shoving food into his mouth, crumbs falling onto his janitor's uniform. "Miss Taylor," Johnson stammered, his eyes widening. He quickly wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, realizing too late that he'd been caught. "How dare you charge someone for leftovers?" Taylor's voice was icy, echoing across the room. "Boss, I caught her trespassing," Johnson said quickly, trying to compose himself. "You know there are bad people everywhere. I was just protecting the company's property." Taylor's eyes narrowed. This woman lost her husband. She struggles every single day to feed her family, just like you did years ago when your wife left and you were raising your son alone. "Do you remember that?" Johnson's mouth opened, then closed again. His face reddened with shame, but still he tried. I was just doing my job." Taylor shook her head. "Don't lie to me. If not for your cousin begging me last year, you wouldn't even have this job. And now I see why. You lack basic humanity." "I'm sorry, boss," Johnson pleaded, his voice breaking. "I promise to change." "Change?" Taylor shot back. "If I hadn't caught you today, you'd keep doing this." taking advantage of the powerless, pretending it's for the company, when it's only for yourself. People like you rot the heart of a workplace. Johnson's shoulders slumped, his excuses running dry. You're done here, Taylor said flatly. I want you out of my company. Immediately, the cafeteria fell silent. Johnson dropped his gaze to the floor, muttering under his breath as he shuffled away, the weight of his greed finally catching up to him. Taylor turned back to Rosa, her expression softening. I'm so sorry you went through that. No one should ever treat you like that. Rosa's lip trembled. Thank you, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Taylor placed a hand on her arm. From now on, you won't have to sneak in for leftovers. I'll make sure you and your kids receive proper meals every week. And I'll personally set up a community fund here so others in need can be helped too. Rosa gasped. You do that? Taylor nodded. This company doesn't just serve clients. It serves people. If we forget that, we've already failed. For the first time in a long while, Rosa felt hope spark inside her chest. She smiled faintly, whispering a quiet prayer of thanks. And as the cafeteria lights flickered above them, a sense of justice settled in. A greedy man had lost his place, but a hungry family had gained a chance to survive. The story spread quickly through the employees. Some shook their heads in disbelief at Johnson's cruelty, while others applauded Taylor's decision. And in the end, Rosa's story became a reminder that compassion always trumps greed. Drop a heart if you believe the boss did the right thing.